This is my 2022 gear list. I thought I would film another one of these, and I think I'm going to start doing more and more of these for different trips that I take, both for my own documentation and then also to share with people. I did one of these last year, so 2021 gear list. I was in Illinois, and it was the last day of season, and of course I had all my stuff with me, so I just threw it out on the tailgate of my pickup truck in a picked cornfield and walked everyone through it, and it was really cool. I got a lot of people that wrote me thank yous because I helped them kind of fill a gap or try something that they didn't think would keep them warm enough or dry enough or quiet enough, and then I had other people offering suggestions and asking questions. It was just a really good dynamic conversation. I'm going to walk through my clothing all the way from base layers through insulation and outerwear, some down, rain jacket, things like that, boots that I like to wear, through my gear. And then, of course, I'm going to end with my weapon, which is, I was really fortunate to hunt with a friend's bow this year, and I'll be hunting with it for years to come. And it's just really near and dear to my heart. So, but basically, I'm going to start at the beginning. I wear wool boxer briefs, wool underwear. These are smart wool. I have a lot of pair of smart wool underwear. I'm probably going to also try to find some other companies to try because I seem to burn through smart wool pretty quickly. The reason I wear these guys is because I can wear a single pair of underwear or maybe two pairs of underwear over a 30-day expedition, and they virtually do not smell. I mean, literally you can pull these things off and give them a sniff test after you've worn them for 30 days and it smells as though you've worn them for a day, maybe two. And if this were a poly blend underwear, it would stink to high heaven after 3 or 4 days. You would want to burn it. And if it was cotton, well, that's just not going to work because as you're hiking, you're going to be sweaty and it's just going to be a problem. 9.9 times out of 10, I wear Darn Tough socks. They're out of Vermont. They're incredible. They are warm, they're comfortable, and they have an unlimited lifetime warranty. So you can buy these things everywhere, from darntough.com or from REI. And if they tear a hole in them or you wear out the heel, send them back to Darn Tough. They send you a brand new pair of socks. If there's a better deal out there than that, I don't know of it. And the socks are really amazing. I probably have 50 pairs of these things. Darn Tough has no idea who I am. I buy my socks just like everyone else, but they are really incredible. As far as a base layer goes, base layer is something that I have on for every single hunt that I'm on, other than maybe if I'm in Australia and it's 100 degrees. But I think it was 3 years ago when I was filming Winds of Adak, I had a different set of long underwear. I was up in the Arctic and I ended up tearing my leg pretty bad, not my flesh, but the long underwear on the caribou bowl that's right above me. And so I stopped in Kevin Dana's store, a good friend of mine in Anchorage, Barney's Sports Chalet, and he had a wall of minus 33 merino long underwear, and I bought this. And then bottoms, I bought 2 sets, 2 bottoms, 2 tops, and I've worn this, like I said, for the last 3 years. Now generally I would go through long underwear. I'm not going to say I would go through a pair a year, but if I had a set last for 2 years, I'm probably donating it or throwing it out, recycling it sometime into that 3rd year. I'm in my 3rd year with these 2 sets. They are my go-to. I grab them whether I'm going to be duck hunting divers on Lake Michigan or whether I'm going to be hunting brown bears in Western Alaska. They fit really, really well. They dry relatively quickly when I'm in the wilderness, and I go down in a river or I get submerged or just soaked from hiking, hang them in a tree, and they dry pretty quick. And they're warm and they just fit right. They're snug without being tight. And for me, that means all the difference in the world. And I'll wear these things. I'll go for 20, 30 days and I won't even take these things off, not once, unless I get soaked. And it's always kind of funny. I bring 2 sets with me, but I very rarely put my second set on unless I absolutely have to, because I always want to have that one little bit of gear left in my gear bag, just so I always know I have one more layer that I can put on to be warmer, or I know I have one more set of dry clothing, and I'll ride that kind of mental state of knowing I have a little bit more clothing to put on, or one more set of dry socks, one more set of dry long underwear, one more pair of dry underwear, I'll ride that mental state all the way to the end. My next layer that I'll put on, if I need it, if it's a cold hunt or if I'm gonna be sitting on a tree stand dark to dark and it's, you know, mid to late November, is this stuff out of, I think it's out of Sweden. It's called Ulfrate. It's funny sounding, but it's Ulfrotte, Ulfrate, and I bought these two pieces in the early 90s. I've had these things a very long time. They've been on most all of my expeditions. I bought a green set, which is kind of a mid-weight set with a half zip. And this piece, I can't even tell you how many trips this piece has been on. I can't even tell you how many dark to dark sits I have had this on. And it doesn't even look like I've worn it. It quite honestly looks brand new. This one, I've worn a little bit more as an outer layer top, and it's got a couple of snag holes in it just because I've worn it at times as more of a jacket, or I've worn this many times when I first started shooting turkeys out of a ground blind. When I used a ground blind, I would wear this to be black. So I'll only put this stuff on over my long underwear if it's going to be a long day, if it's going to be a really cold day, or if when I get to a glassing knob, the wind picks up, snow picks up, and it's really getting tough, I might reach in my pack and throw on another layer. As far as actual clothing, when I'm bow hunting whitetails, I very often like to put on a wool flannel, and then I'll layer a sweater over it. This flannel, I have two weights of this one. I need to find a different flannel to use. This is probably my favorite flannel ever, but it's from Woolrich, and I don't know that Woolrich is making these flannels anymore, or even making clothing anymore. I'm not totally sure. So I probably want to find a wool flannel that's a bit more functional that I can share with people that can actually go and buy. But I love this. This is a heavy wool flannel, and if you've watched any of my work, any of our work, you've seen me in this sweater. This is a Fjallraven Lada, L-A-D-A, Lada sweater. I've worn this thing everywhere, all over, hundreds of times in Alaska. It's really warm. This is another one of my favorite sweaters. This is from Woolrich as well. I don't know if, again, they're making clothing any longer, but this thing is so incredible. It's the Sportsman's Collection. I've had this, 10 years plus, and I'm gonna wear it until the day that it falls off of me. This is probably my go-to. The Lada is probably my go-to when I'm in the wilderness, although I've worn it bow hunting whitetails a bunch of times. And the Woolrich is probably my go-to when I'm tree stand hunting for whitetails, just because it fits a tiny bit bigger and it gives me a little bit more freedom of movement. For most days, up to about, down to about 20 degrees, 15 degrees, 10 degrees, that's all I'm wearing. That's it. If it dips below that and I really want to settle in and be warm, this thing is kind of like an apartment building. I'm not kidding you. It feels like a bed or a sleeping bag. This is a piece from King of the Mountain, and my good friend Mark Beck bought me this piece. He just knows that I really like King of the Mountain and like Sleeping Indian designs wool out of I think they're out of Wyoming. But Sleeping Indian or King of the Mountain, they do a really, really nice job. And I have a couple other pieces here. These aren't important. Just a heavier jacket, slightly different camouflage. And again, if you watch a lot of my stuff, I don't do a lot of camouflage. I do happen to really like these kind of muted colors, and mostly I like how warm these wool pieces are and how soft they are and how supple and quiet. And then they do offer a good element of, you look at a pattern like this as a human being in the living room right here, and you think to yourself, oh, against a tree I'm going to disappear. But really the fact of the matter is, once you get back 50, 60, 80 yards, it just starts to look like you're wearing something that's green or brown. So far more, I'm a big believer in camouflage. Don't get me wrong. But for me, camouflage means movement. Camouflage means using shadows. Camouflage means using cover. Much in the same way that a totally buff colored mountain lion would, or totally buff colored whitetail deer would. They use the shadows, they use movement, and they use the understory, the brush, to hide themselves. This is just a lighter pair of pants. These are from Fjallraven. They're the Keb Gator, or Keb Pro Gator, however Fjallraven names it. These pants are some of my favorite of all pants ever in the history of time. I wear these things very, very often. Maybe I might not wear blue, but I've worn blue, again, 100 times. But I'll wear these bow hunting in September, even early October, mid-October, when it's going to be really nice, down to whatever, 40 degrees or whatever. I'll maybe just throw on a pair of long underwear under these bad boys, and they're not the quietest, but they're just very, very durable, and they allow great movement. They have a elasticity in the crotch, and it's just a super functional pant. I've worn these things. I've hiked hundreds of miles in these things, probably thousands of miles. But that's more of an early season pant or a scouting pant or shed hunting pant, whatever, but I wear those pants quite often. My go-to hunting pants right now, and I just ordered a pair from Sleeping Indian that I'm really excited about. I just ordered a pair of pants, or bibs, and this is a pair of pants from LL Bean. I don't recall what they call these things, but it's a wool pant, and oddly enough, they're insulated. They have this little quilted insulation. Look at it. They're filthy. I'm sure they've never been washed. But these pants are amazing. When I bought these pants, I think they're $150 too. They could probably charge twice that. But when I first bought these pants, I had read online from a couple of reviews that the wind stopper in them was very, very loud, and that these guys were saying they had to cut the wind stopper out. I've never found that to be true. I generally do not like wind stopper. I generally do not like wind stopper in anything that I wear because it is loud. But in these pants, it just doesn't seem to make a difference. And I threw some King of the Mountain suspenders on them, so I don't have to be dealing with a belt. But these are 9.9 times out of 10 if I'm on a tree stand or whitetail hunting, even sitting on the ground. These are my pair of pants. My ultimate layer of insulation on a trip, if I'm bow hunting and it's going to be 20 below zero, 30 below zero, I'm sitting dark to dark for a particular buck, and I just know it's going to be a tough day, and I want to really minimize my movement, I will very likely, although I haven't done this very often, I will very likely put down under my wool pants. And for me, for my money, and I buy this stuff, Kuiu makes the best down. They're Quicks down, or however, they're Super down or Pro down, or I'm horrible at remembering the different names that these companies use, but the Kuiu down pants, Kuiu down jacket, it's really good. It's really, really good. It's not something you're going to put on to be quiet, but this is something that will exist both in my wilderness kit and my whitetail kit. In my whitetail kit, 9 times out of 10, I'm wearing this in the teepee. I'm wearing this around camp. I'm wearing this after the hunt, but I do bring it just in case I get caught in a really frigid situation and I'm unwilling to step out a day or two to go after a buck. And that's pretty much how I go about it. If I'm after a buck and it's 30 below zero, I'm still going hunting. As far as gloves and hats, I will use Kuiu's mittens. I think they call them glommets. I use these things a lot in the wilderness for glassing. I'm not a person who has cold hands, but if my hands are cold, I hate it. I would much rather not interrupt my glassing to heat my hands up or to put them in my pockets. I'd much rather just keep glassing. For guys that hunt hard, for guys that are glassing all the time, these are awesome. We all like to be tough guys. We're designed to be warriors, but it's also nice to have a little bit of comfort when you're sitting in really raw conditions. As far as gloves go, the last several years, as you can see, I've worn these bison wool gloves. They're not normally this shredded. I think one of my dogs ate one of these a little bit and it just kind of unraveled. And then I have a pair of Filson fingerless gloves. They also get kind of tattered up. If I have this glove on, I'll use this glove for everything I'm doing that day. So if I'm breaking sticks or moving something, I have thorns or whatever, I just keep the gloves on and they get shredded up pretty good. I launched my own line of hats last year. You can get them at donnievincent.com. They're really warm, really functional, and yeah, I love them. These guys, this is my footwear when I'm bow hunting for whitetails. I am often wearing hiking boots. The hiking boot that I wear most often is a Hanwag GTX or Cirrus 2. But these are Stager mucklucks. They're out of Ely, Minnesota. I know they look funny. I know they look like ninja booties or socks or whatever. But this is maybe the best kept secret in bow hunting. There's a rubberized bottom, very, very quiet in the woods, very quiet with sticks hitting them. And when you get on stand, your feet are toasty warm. I'm not a guy that gets cold feet, but I've had plenty of my friends who are guys that get cold feet try these and get their own, and they are hands down the best kept secret. Stager mucklucks out of Ely, Minnesota. Okay, on to gear. I'm going to get some of the names of this stuff wrong, but so be it. And this is just a hodgepodge of stuff. First and foremost, I am not a guy, and I'm not here to start a fight. I don't care what you do, but I do not believe in cell cameras at all. I don't like them. I don't use them. I personally think they should be illegal. But to each their own, and we all use different things, and there's probably plenty of people that think trail cameras should be illegal. This is the only trail camera that I use. It is a Lone Wolf. I don't even know what they call it. I don't know what its technical name is. They only have one though. The best trail camera I've ever used in my life. And I know there are very good ones out there, but I'm just telling you, this one is the best. It's a rubberized housing, very easy to set up. Comes with its own mounting bracket, so you don't have to buy a separate something to screw into the tree. Comes with a great strap. Car, just like anything else, 8 lithium batteries. And you can set up different lenses on here, either to have a wide or 2 different sets of zooms. So if you can zoom up on a trail that's a little bit further away, or I shoot almost everything on a wide because I want to see how the deer are coming and I want to see how the deer are leaving. These things are incredible tools, and Lone Wolf, as far as I'm concerned, makes the very best camera. And they have sales throughout the year. I don't want to misspeak, but I think you can get this camera very, very often throughout the year. I think you can get it for $100 or $110. I have 30 of them, maybe, something like that. And I add 10 every year, something like that. And I'll set them up for beavers. I'll set them up for deer. I'll set them up for turkeys, whatever. Anything that I can find in wildlife that I find intriguing, I'll set these cameras up to see if I can capture what's going on. Another thing from Lone Wolf, aside from their tree stands, is they make this goofy tree bark silent tape. The bad part about this tape, and there's only one bad part, is it won't stick onto itself. So if you're wrapping it around something, you don't want to stick it onto itself because it really struggles to stick onto itself because it's textured. It has almost scales or ribs on it, something as though almost like you're touching an iguana. And it's really, really quiet though. It's rubberized. And if you're going to put tape on your stands or tape on sticks or tape on portions of your bow or your gun, this stuff is awesome. It sticks really, really well. And it just, anything you put it on, you bump it against a tree or metal on metal, and it makes it really silent. This stuff is genius. This is something that's new to my kit. I am embarrassed to say that I hang most of my tree stands freehand, which is to say if I fall, I'm going to I'm either going to break a femur, my pelvis, a tib fib, or lose my life. And hanging a tree stand without support of a lineman's belt is, as I jokingly describe it to my friends, it's nearly impossible. Hanging a tree stand is certainly possible, but when you get up there and you're holding the tree stand and you have the strap and you're trying to hold everything with your chin and you're throwing the strap around the tree and then you're trying to hold the tree stand and get it right and then hold the strap and tighten it down, it's nearly impossible. It's certainly possible, nearly impossible. And so I reached out to Jason Simiowak or something like that, the guy that's Traditional Bowhunter Wilderness Podcast, and he designed this saddle, or designed this harness rather, and he sent me to Tactus Saddle. I think it's tactussaddle.com to have it ordered. It goes off of your measurements. You can pick different things that you want. But I bought one of these and I'm really excited about it. I have not used it yet, but I know it's going to be incredible, and it's going to be really incredible to have support. And yes, I know I've been doing it dangerously for the last several decades, but this year I'll be wearing this. And I also follow Jason's, he has a video online on how to build your own lineman's belt, which is using an 8.4 millimeter dynamic rope, mountain climbing rope, and then a Wild Country Ropeman 1 devices to basically let rope in and out. It's a closure device with really good carabiners. So I haven't built that yet. I actually just got this stuff. It's after the season, but I will be using that harness and then a lineman's belt this entire year, hanging all my sets, and then of course, you know, I'll be snug and safe when I'm bow hunting as well. One of the things that I use a lot of, I haven't found one better than this, and I wore all the paint off the top of this, so I can't even read it, but I think it's HS Strut. Find these things in Fleet Farm or Cabela's or whatever. Just a camouflage cosmetic, green, brown, and black. I basically just use the black, and I started painting my face in the early 2000s because I was full draw one time at a turkey. I was sitting outside of a blind and I was wearing a face mask, and I shot at this turkey, and my release and my string and everything just ripped my face mask around, and my arrow flew funny, and it was just a mess, and I hated it. I was blinking and I had all this stuff. It was a mess. So from that day forward, I decided that I was going to start painting my face. A lot of people ask me, you wear regular pants, you know, let's pretend this King of the Mountain and Sleeping Indian stuff isn't camouflage, but I'm wearing regular pants, regular sweaters, and then I paint my face. Why? Well, if you look at a human being, particularly a Caucasian human being, and you look at them from afar, and they're wearing olive drab or light tan stuff from afar, well, their body starts to kind of disappear, much like you would see a white-tailed deer or a mountain lion. They start to disappear in the understory and then with the shadows. But our human faces glow when the sun hits them. It's just something that's very easy to pick out for an animal or even another person. And so that's why you're seeing Navy SEALs, Green Berets, Army Rangers, Delta Force guys, they're painting their faces so that even if a human being looks at them, it kind of causes this confusion a little bit. Like, is that real? Am I really looking at that? If you look at somebody that doesn't have their face painted, particularly duck hunters, I see this a lot. You see guys wearing all this camouflage, they're in a camouflage blind. It's been a slow morning. They're standing up in the blind. They're having a cup of coffee. They're all talking. Their faces, you can see them for hundreds of yards. You can just see these white blobs shining. Well, if you put a little bit of face paint on and break all that stuff up, that goes away. And so I'm basically trying to turn my face into something that's nondescript, confuse the animal's eye. If they look up at me, or if I'm sitting on the ground and they look right at me, they kind of just end up looking right through you. Another weird thing that I carry with me is, along with my trail camera, I like to take notes of things that I observe throughout the day. And I know there's a bunch of websites, and I know there's a bunch of apps on your phone that will do this stuff and record a bunch of this stuff. But since I was working as a biologist, I've always traveled with a Right in the Rain field notebook. And then I know these things look so gimmicky, but those space pens that you can buy at REI or whatever, where they can write upside down, they can write when they're frozen, they can write in water. But these two things go everywhere with me, and they're incredible. And so I'll just write, sat today from 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. and, you know, saw this aged buck at this time going this direction. And I'll just make a general note on the day. I'm just making notes about the spot of that particular year, because I know as I'm hunting some of these farms over years and years and years, I'm developing the spot. I'm finding different things out. I'm learning how the deer kind of move, and as to why, with crop rotations and different weather phenomenon. So I just like to have this. Plus, it's just fun to look back and just see kind of what you've accomplished, and it's just a really good idea, and to keep a journal on things that you're seeing. Next, I'll go into knives. You can get away in life with one good knife, and this is a very, very good knife. It's a Benchmade Osborne 940. Either the Osborne is my favorite pocket knife from Benchmade. They also make one called the Bailout, which is really thin. This is my second favorite one. This one's a little bit heavier, a little bit more robust, but this is my favorite pocket knife from Benchmade. The Osborne 940, the green handle. This has become one of my favorite knives. Benchmade Meat Crafter, deboning fillet knife. I have broken down 3 moose and 2 or 3 deer with this knife so far, and I've yet to sharpen it, and it's still very, very sharp, or sharp enough, I should say. Yeah, and they have several configurations. This one appears to have kind of a carbon fiber handle. I like this knife a lot. Very functional. This is the knife I'm still getting to know, but I wanted to try it for the skinning edge. This is called a Raghorn from Benchmade. This is a new piece of gear for me. It's from a knife crafter. I think his name is Mike Jones. I'm not going to say the name of this tool because I don't want to swear, but it's called a Bush Lover, if you will, but it's spelt with an F. Bush Lover with an F, if you get my drift. And it's heavy, it's robust. I'm going to use it to trim shooting lanes. I'm going to use it to trim areas for cameras. I'm going to use it for home defense. Just kidding. This is just an all-in-one. This is something that I want to see what it looks like in 20 years, but this is something I'm really excited about. Clearly this gentleman knows how to make this type of tool, and probably a number of other things, but it's just really cool. Next, I'm going to go over what's maybe the most important thing in my arsenal, and that is my glass. This is a T&K hunting gear, vinyl harness, of course. He makes really good stuff. Ex-military guy, American made, highly recommend it. Maven Optics, Maven Built is my optic of choice. These are B1s. They are amazing. I'm not going to throw any other companies under the bus, but I have used several brands of binoculars from very, very high-end, expensive glass companies, and I've broken a lot of them. I've broken 1 pair of Mavens so far, and they fell off a cliff. Probably they fell like 40 or 50 feet down a rock cliff on an elk hunt, and then a guy that I was with ran them over with the truck on accident. My fault, because I left them near the tire. So this knife you see on the side, it's called a Flyway. I just thought it was called a Fin and Feather, but it's called the Flyway. It's just a little, oh, it's covered in blood. This is just a small trout knife, grouse knife, whatever. And it, I use it for kind of my unknown unknowns, if you will. Things that happen that you don't know, and I just like to have a blade right here that I'm able to pull out. I also have my Osborne or my Bailout in my pocket, but I just like to keep this here for whatever. And then I have this little pocket here that I keep my Maven rangefinder, which I've been, this is an RF1. It's actually really cool. It has the ability to range find in open areas, and then also in forests where it kind of just cuts through and will range the animal or range the object that you want to range, and not all the branches. But I don't do a lot of range finding these years because I'm hunting with a self-made recurve, but still invaluable piece of equipment. And then same thing with Maven. I've used their spotting scopes for basically the same amount of time I've been using their binos. This is the S1, and when I am using it, I use it on a Gitzo tripod. I like a curved scope, particularly when I'm sheep hunting, because I can turn it and look down mountain without sticking my head out over a cliff. And I know it seems silly, but it can make a big difference sometimes, where you can look around a cliff, if you will. So that's the glass that I use. And then as far as tree stands go, I have a couple of different systems that I use. Largely, I'm using XOP tree stands where I'm having setups, where I have a place I've been scouting, I've been hunting, I've been learning, moving, little fine tuning it, and really figuring out where the big bucks are, or whatever it is that I'm hunting. I'll go in there and set up. We'll set up 2 XOPs, one for me, one for our photographer, and that's a spot that we're developing. And these are really great stands, very similar to Lone Wolf custom gear, just not quite as fancy, which is fine. And then I use these guys, Lone Wolf custom gear, Andre and Cody D'Acquisto, good friends of mine. These things are the Ferrari of tree stands. They're unbelievable, super light, really designed for running and gunning. You can have these sticks. They bolt right here, 2 sticks right here, 2 sticks on the other side. And then when you get to the tree, these extenders, these black cables drop down, and with 2 sticks you can get pretty dang high. With 2 sticks you can get probably 12, 15 feet, something like that. And you have these J hooks, which hold them tight to the tree stand. There's a rubber grommet that they go in, and then you can get these J hooks will hold them tight to the tree stand, so they're super quiet when you're going through the woods. Okay, we're down to the bread and butter. A couple of years ago, I started talking with Tom Klum Sr. and Danny Klum out of Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear out of Colorado. I flew out there several times to learn how to shoot a traditional bow from Tom and from Danny, and they're amazing men. Tom is really, really good at teaching you the mechanics of shooting a traditional bow. And if you guys have followed any of my stuff right along with any of this gear, in fact, if you told me there was one thing in this gear list that is absolute, it is to have proper instruction. If you need to learn how to shoot the mechanics of a traditional bow or even a compound bow, Tom Klum and Danny Klum are really, really amazing at teaching that, as is Joel Turner. And then if you're just looking at controlling your shot process, having control of your shot, shooting a controlled shot every single arrow, you have to get a hold of Joel Turner. I don't care if you've bow hunted for 40 years or you've bow hunted for one day. Taking Joel's class, whether that be online or going to one of his in-person classes, is vital for 95% of archers. It'll give you control of your shot. Now when your buddies watch you shoot, you'll actually enjoy your buddies watching you shoot, because you're going to be so calm in big scary situations like a grizzly bear or a brown bear, polar bear, whatever it is. You're able to kind of harness kind of that chi to go through your whole shot process with what Joel will teach you. And for the last 2 years, I've been hunting with a recurve, and I've not killed anything yet, but I've had really, really close calls, and I'll share some of that footage here coming up this year. But a dear friend of mine, Flip Pallet, and when I say dear friend, I don't mean Flip and I write each other every day. I don't get a Christmas card from Flip. I don't go over to Flip's house for Thanksgiving dinner. But Flip is a man that I admire deeply. I've admired him from afar by watching his TV show, Walker K's Chronicles. When I was growing up, I would go over to the neighbor's house. They had cable, I did not, and I would watch his TV show. And his best friend, Jose Wahebe, had a TV show called The Spanish Fly, and I would watch these two gentlemen fish. I could see how they cast And more importantly, when they would catch a fish, I could see how they would handle the fish, and I could see how they would return the fish to the water. That fish and that ecosystem were very important to them. And so I've admired Flip from afar for a very, very long time. And I was very fortunate to meet Flip several years ago on a business trip. And he was every bit the man that I thought he was. And Flip contacted me last year and said that he was ready to bequeath his self bow. He was ready to gift his self bow that he and Clay Hayes had made. And he had taken over 100 animals with this bow. And he just called me and said, it's ready for its next owner. And he was kind of mulling over who that was going to be. And he contacted me and said he would be honored if I would accept it, which took my breath away. And I was incredibly honored to take the bow. And he wrote on it here, it says, made by Flip Palette with minimal help from Clay Hayes. And then it says 50 at 31. And it's made out of Osage orange. And then it's backed by black tip reef shark skin. And then this is a camouflage that Flip painted on there himself. And on this bow I put this is maybe the fanciest quiver I've ever seen. I don't know why everyone doesn't use them, but it's I apologize that I forget all these names, but it's Creek Walker trading post, and it's it's wood and leather, but it's really super cool. And these rubber grommets hold it to the bow. This is a takedown that Flip made. It shoots very, very nicely. This year I shot Easton, these trad arrows, just a 500 spine, and then at the tip I have an iron will 200 grain, and then I'm also testing a 225 grain. But this is my gear list. If you have any questions, send me a message. If you have any suggestions, send me a message. If you have any complaints, keep them to yourself. Life's too short.